Tonight I have Snow Dub Music and Entertainment. This is a chance for fans of his content and hopefully future subscribers to get a chance to know who the creator behind Snow Dub Music and Entertainment is. And thank you for being here, Snow.
No, it's my pleasure, and thanks for having me on, Stefan.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you're here. So tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do? What do you do in your real life?
Real life or YouTube life?
Oh, I mean, what kind of work are you into?
Oh, okay. Real life. Yeah, no. I actually am a contractor. I do mostly paint work. I'm an artist by trade. I like to doodle a little bit, so it kind of came naturally. I love to do like faux paintings and really artsy stuff when the work's available. But most of the time, it's just your basic slap some paint on the wall and get her done type of style. But whatever pays the bills. So yeah, that's what I do for a living.
Yeah, I hear you told me earlier you're working right now. You're actually streaming from a phone on your lunch break.
Yeah, technically, yeah. I'm a personal contractor, so I get my own jobs, and I can kind of call my own hours and stuff. But yeah, that's why I'm not at my house right now, like on my computer or something with you.
Yeah, well, normally I do the same type of thing, man, in internet technology. So I understand where you're coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the construction trade for you. Feast or
So
famine.
that's right, feast or famine. It's absolutely right. Yeah, the slow season's coming up for me here pretty soon. I'm hoping it doesn't get that slow for me. So
yeah, I mean, neither, man. I was just gonna say that's the beautiful thing about where I live in Arizona State. We have pretty much summer all year round. So if you're in the constructions and stuff, a lot of people like working here, but right to work state also. So it's hard to make really good money here as well. So yeah. So it's all how you want to play it. But at least there's year-round work if you can find it.
That's good. Yeah. So Snow Dub, tell me about your childhood. What were your favorite things growing up?
Childhood. Well, I am definitely a child of the original trilogy. Grew up, with a very fond love of Star Wars. As a child, it was a lot of. I hit that blow up point of Kenner and all the toys and you had PJs. I remember underwear. I mean, right down to the socks. Everything had to be Star Wars there for a while. It was a real craze, growing up, and a real love. I remember being so young at a time when we rented videos for you kids out there. That was called a video store. And me and my mom would love to rent Empire Strikes Back because it was our favorite out of the original trilogy. And I probably made that video store a half fortune out of all the times I rented that. And I got the toys as a kid. I remember getting the AT-AT and stuff like that. So that was a big passion of mine as a child, and superheroes too. I remember I really liked Spider-Man, Incredible Hulk, and of course coloring books and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot of the stuff that's out there now, especially owned by Disney, was a lot of my childhood love growing up.
Yeah, did you like a lot of the LucasArts things from the '80s?
Yeah. See, I wasn't into like. I didn't like the Ewok movies or stuff like that, but I remember when the video games first started popping up, like on the Super Nintendo and stuff like that. I remember being really thrilled to have like an interactive game where you actually got to use a lightsaber, and that was a big deal back then.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember those games a lot. I spent a lot of hours behind the console playing Star Wars games.
They were really hard.
So, Snow Dub as a teenager, what were your influences when you became a teenager?
Oh, well, yeah, of course, puberty changes everything for everybody. So girls start becoming more of a priority, at least for me, being a heterosexual. So, it was all about style after a while. You had to be what was cool and what was in. My trend back then, we're talking, basically early 90s. So hip hop music, West Coast, gangster rap was getting real popular at the time. NWA, Eazy-E. I was really into the Bay Area hip hop, like Too Short, Um, Grew up just loving it, loving the culture and the style of it. Like I remember I had to have baggy jeans, and we used to starter coats used to be cool and trendy.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
went to so I had to have a big old fat starter coat and represent your team. And then of course when you got into driving and stuff, that was I always had to have big speakers in the back. I couldn't ride without 12-inch subwoofers pounding, and so I was a hip
So
hop lover.
you have an amp in your car?
Of course, yeah. We would Mickey rig stuff that you wouldn't believe. Taking house speakers and stuffing them in our cars just to make things work. It's
Yeah, I remember those
anything you
days.
could do. Yeah, yeah. You had to have bumps. You had to have a system, or else you just weren't cool.
So, in case anyone doesn't know, you have a favorite football team, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Seattle. Well, I was born in Seattle. Grew up in suburb areas of that, like Everett, Smoky Point, and then high school years, I moved to the other side of the mountains, Cascade Mountains, there on the east side of the state. You put your finger on the middle of the state on a map, and you'd hit it. I went to a town or a high school in a town called Cashmere, which is between Leavenworth and Wenatchee, as you go over Highway 2, I believe it is, from Seattle. Smaller town, smaller, influence, a little more country. So I was kind of thankful for that growing up. But there was still a devotion to our teams growing up in that state. Everybody loved our home teams, the Seahawks and the Mariners. Unfortunately, they've never really done much, but yeah, Seahawks. I am definitely a fan. Always have been. Got to watch Steve Largent in the 1980s. I don't know if chat knows who that is, but he's a Hall of Famer. He was like one of our best players back when the Seahawks first started. So yeah, I grew up with that team.
Nice. What was it like growing up in a rural area like that?
Well, it was probably a good thing for me that my father moved me from the Seattle area over the mountains, because that was a transition age for me, about 14, 15, starting to get into, kind of the bad crowd. Um, Possibly could have went down a totally different path. Some gang affiliated stuff. I was never full blown, but had friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then he moved me over the other side, so it was a little bit of a culture shock, because I was kind of a quote unquote city slicker, for the old timers out there, going into a more country type of feel, more neighborly, everybody knows everybody, small town type of thing. And that was different, but it was fun at the same time, because I was such a different personality, that I made a lot of great friendships, and kind of made a name for myself almost in that area, um, which we can get to here in a minute when we talk about our music, the music stuff.
Yeah, well, let's transition into that. So, you have been a professional artist in your time.
Definitely. Started out, house parties back in the mid late 90s. Um, we would just plug it was like karaoke. You'd plug a microphone, you grab some instrumentals. Back in those days, you bought CDs that would have your hit single, and it'd probably have an instrumental on it. And you put the instrumental version on where the lyrics aren't there. And I can remember having house parties where the house was just packed, cake stands, wall to wall, cops showing up, of course. Some real ragers. Had a lot of fun, and I actually became a local celebrity of sorts with the kids of that generation, because every time I had a house party with me and my friends, they'd want us to rap, me and a couple others, especially me. So I'd get on the microphone and just freestyle, and start calling people's names out and just talking about the party or whatever was going on.
Right.
Yeah, and had a lot of fun with it. And eventually, I took a break at one point, but eventually, at another point in my life, I got back into music and had a little bit of success. That was pretty cool.
That's good. That's good. Did you ever fall into a group, or were you always a single performer?
No, back in those days, there was roughly 3 of us that were pretty dedicated, and I guess maybe 4. We called ourselves the Seatown Crew. which, for me, it represented Seattle, but also represented the town we were living at the time, which was called Kashmir.
Mm-hmm.
And so we call ourselves the Sea-Town Crew. The name's still known around that area from,
Nice.
20 years ago or whatever. But we all, we had an entourage of other friends that claimed it. But the main focal four of us that rapped together, we never got too serious. We made kind of a, sub-basement mixtape type of deal where we put a few songs together and pushed it around to our friends and stuff. But, never really traveled outside of our area. Funny thing is, over time, I'm 41 years old now. So over time, your friends tend to, they get into their own situations, whether it's maybe they got a girl pregnant or maybe they went, down the drug scene or, so everybody kind of went on their own paths, and I ended up kind of being a lone wolf. And at a certain point, things got kind of bad. There was a lot, there was selling of drugs going on with, friends, and even one of my buddies got shot, which was pretty traumatic for me.
Wow.
I saw a best friend of mine, laid up in the hospital bed with a, breathing apparatus because he got shot in the face. Bullet went through his teeth, through his tongue, lodged back of his neck. So he got real close. I almost got him. And I remember thinking, there was a case kind of got blown open. People were being watched. I was one of them because I was affiliated, whatever you want to call it. And I realized, oh boy, this is another path that I just don't want to be on. So I literally kind of flipped my life around and went down south where my mother had established herself with my grandparents, and she had opened her own hair salon down in Tucson, Arizona, and my grandparents were retired there. I had an uncle down there that was owned a restaurant, and I was like, I'm gonna go kick it with that side of the family for a while, try something new. The rest was history. Yeah, I've been living in Arizona ever since.
So trouble always seemed to try and follow you around.
Something about, I don't know, I had a lot of domestic violence as a kid. I had an alcoholic father, a lot of in-house fights. It was just always around, it seemed, throughout my youth, whether I was trying to get into it or even leaning towards it or trying to get away from it. Yeah, it was always there. So I felt like a switch of the state might actually break that kind of that chain reaction of that. Yeah. And it seemed to work. Yeah, it changed everything for me.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's all it takes. As a kid who grew up in an abusive household myself, sometimes it takes a major change to get a new perspective on life. So now, before you left, you had made a Seahawks tribute video that I have seen, and why don't you tell us about that?
That's a little bit different scenario. Okay, so that was back in 2013. I was living here in Arizona, had been for quite a few years. Yeah. But I still have family up there. I got a sister, cousins, grandfather. I got family and friends. So I try to go back and visit. And I had just made a couple songs with some buddies, kind of got back into it. One of them unfortunately passed away, which, really lit the fire under my ass to keep making music. Kind of got associated with some people that had a studio, had some talent, and just kind of came up. It's like, oh yeah, I used to rap. Let's give it a shot type of deal. Well, I was a couple songs in. Nobody really knew what I was doing yet. And a family member of mine said, I was like, man, what should my next song be? And they're like, well, you love the Seahawks. Why don't you try making a Seahawks song? And if you've ever listened to any of my music, it's more party, pimping, having a good time. It's got a little
Old
bit of
school
kind
hip
of,
hop.
yeah, it's a 90s West Coast funk feel. That's what I grew up on. So this was kind of stepping outside the box. I was like, okay, I got to make a song that's dedicated to a team, dedicated to its fans. No cussing. The kids got to like it and be able to. Radio play is what I was hoping for. And as I first made it, it got around a little bit. It was cool. We actually won the Super Bowl. I literally put the song out a couple weeks before we won the Super Bowl. I believe like the day before we beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship that year.
Yeah.
And so it didn't travel too much then because people were just starting to hear about it. But over that course of that year, going into the next year, it picked up and it caught fire. And next thing I know, I'm getting flown. Well, the first thing that happened was my hometown of Kashmir / Wenatchee. The major radio station there in that area, it's called KW3, kind of a, you know, today's hits type of radio station.
Mm-hmm.
And they caught wind of it, and boom, it was on the radio. And that's when things kind of blew up, and people started, hitting up my Facebook and, whoa, you're on the radio, dude. And it just kind of went crazy. And then it started traveling around in some group pages and kind of traveled into the Seattle area underground. And that's when a few people that put together like these big fundraisers and get-togethers for like children's hospitals and stuff for Seahawk fans got a hold of me. And I started flying up there. At one point, I was flying up almost every weekend, just hanging out with these people and doing these fundraisers and, rapping the same song over and over again. And so much so, one of my sisters can't stand the song anymore. Every time she hears it, I hate that song. And I'm like, I'm sorry. But yeah, but it was cool. I got to, meet players families.
Wow.
Yeah, I got to be on the field. 2015 NFC Championship. I was hanging out with Richard Sherman's mom and Marshawn Lynch's mom.
That is awesome.
And, yeah, we got to travel out on the field, and I was grabbing confetti, and I was right next to the players, and, bumping shoulders with Steve Largent, the man that I'd actually grown up loving and watching as a young fan kid. And to see him there, on the podium, handing the trophy over, and the whole team just going nuts. And then I have a video you can check out on my channel where I show some footage of it. But the sound of all the crowd screaming, and the excitement and hitting the field, I finally understood what the players always talked about on how the crowd could be so loud that it actually disrupted, the other team. They're really well known in Seattle for, making the other team jump off sides. And yeah, wow, what a moment. And I even got to meet Paul Allen. And crazy thing today, just in the news, they're putting him up on the Ring of Honor. He's the actual 12th jersey, so to speak, that they're going to retire for Paul Allen. Mm-hmm. And people don't know who that is. He was the owner of the Seahawks, best friend of Bill Gates, helped build Microsoft, owner of the Portland Trailblazers, and he passed away. But one of my crowning moments was handing him a Go Hawks CD and having him sign my football. So
that's great.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my mountaintop. Yeah. So I had a little bit of luck with the music, and I've had other songs since, but nothing quite popped like that Seahawks song.
Yeah. Well, where can people find your list of music?
Oh, right on my channel. It's still the most popular one. I mean, it's right at the top as far as my uploads. Snow Dub Music and Entertainment. Yeah, it's almost 10,000 views. And that's not even the first time I uploaded the song. It's hit 10,000 before. But I got to make that video the following year after it popped, 2016, I believe it was. I went back up there, got a bunch of friends together, including Marshawn Lynch's mom. She's in it, right behind the bike there at the night scene. And it was just a great time. Got a bunch of friends together and shot some scenes and put it together. And there's my music video. So everybody, when I'm dead and gone and in the dust, people can always look back and say, "Oh yeah, there's a little Snow Dub, that Seahawks song." Hopefully the NFL still around.
Yeah, hopefully. That's great, man. Most people, they have a dream to make music, and they don't find that. They don't even find a sliver of the hope and dream that they have for doing it. And I mean, even a small success can mean the biggest thing to an artist. And I'm proud of you, man. That's a hell of an achievement to have made that song and loved your music and loved your team and then been out there with them.
Yeah, it was amazing. And the fact that people still play it to this day, it's like their warm up prep song for the day, for game day. It's like that song gets me pumped up. I'm like, well, the lyrics are dated now, but We won't care. And it's like, okay. So I'm glad it has, what is it? Staying power, over the years. It's awesome.
Beautiful. I also saw from your profile you have a love of Dobermans.
Yes, sir. I guess we had one when I was a kid, but I don't remember. But supposedly I like that Doberman. My father had a female. Died way before I can remember. So my love for him, I believe, came from the movies, just like anybody else. I think when I seen him, I was just like, wow, what a species, what a dog, so powerful. So, of course, kind of scary when but of course, they got a bad rep when it comes to TV and movies. A lot of people don't know they tie little wires around the top of their jaw, the muzzle part, to hold the skin up so their teeth stick out.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They don't naturally do that like you see in the movies.
Okay.
They'll snarl, but not hold it for that long.
Mm-hmm.
The movies, you see them sitting there for 30 seconds with those teeth sticking out. It's like, they don't do that. You'll see it for 2 seconds, but not 30. But they're a great breed. My first one, I named him Kruger after my love of horror movies. Second one was named Voorhees. I ended up breeding both of them with a couple females. I now have those two have passed, but I now have the daughter Ripley, and I had the son of Voorhees Bishop. Ripley I had fixed, so Kruger and Ripley's line is done, but I kept the Voorhees line going, and so now I have Crowley, who is literally the grandson of one of my first Dobermans.
Wow!
So it's a family affair, and they're if anybody in the chat knows what dogs are, they know how I feel when you say dogs are family. They're just like another family member, and I can't vouch enough for that breed. The other reason I love that breed so much is my patriotism. I had a grandfather in World War II, veteran, decorated, did 2 tours, Africa and the Battle of the Bulge. And I really dug into my World War II history after he passed because there's a lot of stories I didn't get to hear, unfortunately, because he died when I was pretty young. But I found out, about these devil dogs that were the mascot of the Marines. Come to find out, they used the Dobermans against the Japanese to help take back all the islands when they were fighting.
Really?
Yeah. There's a memorial in Guam with a Doberman statue on the top of it, listing off all the names of the dogs that had died. There was other dogs too, but the main force of dogs they used were Dobermans. And to this day, they're the mascot of the Marines.
That's incredible.
Yeah, great breed. So I definitely recommend them. But they are a powerful breed, so you can't be a wimp. They'll push you around if you are.
Do you see any hereditary traits in your animals, in the dogs, like from grandfather to grandchild?
Of course. Yeah, of course. There's hereditary traits as far as, how their body style is, of course. But the main, personality traits too. And Voorhees, the original one that I got was actually a rescue. So he was actually abused. And so he had a little bit of a temper.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked with him and he got a lot better over the years. And that's the bloodline I've kept going. Funny thing is that temper never came back. So it wasn't part of his breed. It was because of his environment. The next two, Bishop and Crowley, the son and the grandson, have both been completely compassionate, loving dogs. In fact, Bishop, he's 9 now. He has been sleeping with my son ever since he was about 6 months old. It's like his protector. Yeah. So it goes to show you don't ever blame the breed. And that goes for pit bull owners and stuff like that too. It's the environment. It's not the dog.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That's great. So how old is your son now?
He's 9.
He's 9. I see him on a lot of some of the videos that you've posted, like short ones on Twitter, and the one where we had that short rap battle. That was my very first rap ever. You came back at me, and your son was laughing. That was so great.
You attacked the Dobermans, you son of a.
No, I knew I'd get a reaction.
I told you about the family member.
I knew I'd get a reaction out of you. So,
You got one. Yeah.
So, do you think is the area you're living in, is that a good environment for raising kids? Are you happy with your son's development in that area?
Well, yeah, yes and no. Arizona's not the best well-known state for schools,
Mhm.
unfortunately. My home state actually is. It's number one as far
Really?
as like best education goes out there, Washington State. Funny as it is, the Seattle itself is literally falling apart because of the hardcore radical left that runs that area. But there's still some pockets of really nice areas, especially on the east side of that state. And I've actually considered packing him up once he hits that 13 slash puberty. He may, depending on how things go, he's still young, but if he gets any kind of my traits, I'm thinking I may want to up and move him to a better school system eventually. I can't really say that Tucson, Arizona has the best schools. Now, it does have a really good college, which is the
Mhm.
University of Arizona. So I can't take that away from this area. It's got a great college.
Beautiful. So, what inspired you to begin your YouTube channel, Snow Dub Music and Entertainment?
Great question. Well, it was always there for when the music was going. If you look at like how old my channel is, I believe it started 2011. So it's been
Mm.
around. Yeah. But I never really pushed it. It was just an extra place to throw music at. My main focus was Facebook. And I actually have a Facebook page, facebook.com/snowdub. It's got 2,300 people that liked it. So I have a bigger following still on Facebook to this day than I do YouTube. That said, when I first put out my album cover back in 2016, I made an homage picture to my grandfather who was in World War II. And I have the picture. I have a few of them actually. One where he captured a Nazi flag, but the one that I
Wow.
homaged was him leaning against a truck, and literally in France, where there's buildings you can kind of see in the background that have been bombed. And you can see pieces of them basically.
Mhm.
And he's just chilling, having a good day, obviously, with his buddy. And he's got a sidearm, like a 44, I believe, kind of just strapped it right there on his hip. Now, the little John Wayne pose, right? So I
Yeah.
mimicked that pose on my album cover somewhat. Added in a Doberman for my own pizzazz. I put Bishop on the cover. But when I showed that around the Seattle fans, because that was where my main network of music lovers were, I got kind of a pushback. A lot of people came at me and said, take the gun off. You don't need the gun.
Really?
And yeah, and I tried to explain to them. I said, I'm not trying to be gangster. That's not what I'm getting at here. This is my love of the Second Amendment. This is my love of the military. This is my love to my grandfather. I try to really explain it. I put the picture side by side in a collage picture and share it, to Facebook, saying, "Look, this is what I'm trying to, I'm showing my generation. I'm the grandson of a great hero, so to speak, that made it so we're all not speaking Japanese or German right now."
Right.
And to attack the gun and the fact that that was just a prop to help look like him in his pose really shook me to the core. And I like some liberal point of views. Don't get me wrong, but the more radical it became, the more, and I hate to use the R word because it's thrown around so much, but the more racist it became towards certain people. It really freaked me out. And since I had been living in Arizona for so long, and I was only flying back visiting, I could feel a shift, between the fans and how they kind of looked at me. And as time progressed, the 2016 election happened. I came out of the closet, so to speak, as a Trump supporter.
Mhm.
And oh boy, I think I lost probably about half my Facebook friends within a week. So I mean, if
Wow.
you can imagine, and it's very, very liberal in Washington State, especially the Seattle area. So
Mhm.
they do not like Trump at all. And unfortunately, it affected my fan base. I don't have anything against them, I may have fought back a little bit in the beginning. Like I think everybody did, when that first initial hit, hit everybody like, oh my God, Hillary's not going to win. Some people are still in denial. Uh,
Yeah.
but, there was a lot of bickering, a lot of fighting on social media between people that, loved Trump and professed it. A lot of people just didn't talk about it. And unfortunately, me being the personality that I am, I came out and kind of fought back and realized, okay, I need to kind of rethink my life and rethink what I'm doing now, because music was kind of taking a downslide. And as I got into trying to find people that thought like me, I started discovering these YouTube channels. And I was like, all right, now here's some information that I can trust instead of this mainstream media crap. And the more I started digging around, I started finding these amazing channels. One of the first ones I found was like Undoomed. World Class Bullshitters was one of the first ones I came across. And this is back right around, Force Awakens time. So not everybody was hating Star Wars yet. A lot of people were still excited. And then, of course, The Last Jedi happened. And I was so detrimentally, oh man, between what happened with my son, which, yeah, a lot of people already know about him being a Luke Skywalker fan. And then me as growing up as a childhood fan, and we got a whole bathroom decorated in Star Wars stuff. We don't play around in my house. We were big fans. And when that one hit, whoo, everything changed. And that's when I started discovering more people like Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers. Became a huge fan of his. Ethan Van Sciver and his Rose Tico videos. Those were great.
Yeah.
And I wasn't necessarily a comics book fan anymore. I was when I was a kid, but I kind of phased out of that a little bit. But I was still kind of enjoying, that seeing part of it. And then I found, of course, what people are referring to now is the Phantom Menace, and or at least like-minded people that feel that the politics need to be removed from, especially our beloved franchises, if not entertainment altogether, and music too. Music's really turning into crap now. It's unfortunate, but yeah. So that's kind of inspired me to make my own channel. And if I got to put the finger on the exact person that probably got me going, I would give Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers complete credit. Watching him and hearing him, say anybody can do this type of motif to his channel and his interaction made me a believer. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. And me and my sister Megs kind of buckled up and started making videos. And the rest, as they say, is history.
So you were rising in the entertainment industry in your own niche as a musician, and then half your fan base turned on you because of your political leaning. How did that make you feel?
I guess the initial reaction was confused, not understanding how such something so petty as my political leanings would affect what I thought was a collaboration of what they like to call, and what I actually called at the time, was a family of the 12th man, fans of the Seahawks. These are people that, patted me on the shoulder as I came off the stage, doing another show to help raise money for children's hospitals, who are now looking at me as, I don't want to get too extreme, but it felt like I was the Antichrist as soon as I said, Trump's okay, let's give him a shot type of thing. And and as time has gone on, Trump is Trump. He's not a perfect president by any means. But has he delivered on his promises? Sure. I think so. And a lot of others do too. So, but to attack people just on that premise and to isolate you, so to speak, because of that. And unfortunately, I have a cousin that I was very close to that really helped kind of push me around. He did a lot of the driving and helped me set up stuff back when I was doing all these shows. He literally turned on me because of political and just turned me into a bad guy. Started running my name through the mud, and we got the same last name, so it was ugly. Yeah, and it hurt to the core, but it kind of reaffirmed my beliefs at the same time, that I was like, I'm not wrong in this. There's a lot of other people out there that believe like I do, within reason. We all got our different opinions, but there's a movement, involved, of people that are just sick of it, just sick of all the BS and just want to get back to just being people again and not putting labels on everything all the time. So that's where I'm at. And unfortunately, where I grew up and where I came from is very brainwashed into believing a more radical left point of view.
Yeah, Tim Pool just put out a video today about how independents are being pushed away from that side of the political line because of all of the rhetoric, the hyperbolic rhetoric that has split up families. You have plenty of stories of families being torn apart just because of political differences, and that's insane to imagine that's a possibility. What did
It's true.
yeah? What did you think of the news when Disney acquired Lucasfilm?
Oh, I was ecstatic. But of course, I read into it like everybody else did. Let's see if I can remember the events exactly. Okay, so George Lucas approached the main three, I believe, before he sold it, if I remember correctly. You can correct me if I'm wrong on this. Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher. He approached those three before the selling of Star Wars and said, hey, I want to make another trilogy. I believe I read something in a magazine or news article, something about that. That was my initial, whoa, they're coming back. Like, oh my God,
Yeah.
So excited, like literally just pumped. Then I heard George said, okay, I'm going to, put the whole thing on Disney now. My initial reaction, and this is, let's see, we didn't have a whole lot going on as far as Marvel then, I believe. Maybe Iron Man?
Yeah.
And a couple others. Yeah. So Disney hadn't really established themselves as this, big franchise pusher yet. But I did feel like, okay, now they got the money that they need to make the best damn Star Wars movies they can make. Now, in turn, I believe when I found out that George Lucas was kind of getting shifted out of it as far as creative, they lied to us right from the get-go. They said, Kathleen Kennedy got on us on there. I remember the interview like it was yesterday. Kathleen Kennedy's sitting there and, oh, George, we're going to take your beloved characters and give them the utmost respect, blah, blah, blah. And I bought into it, man. And I think everybody did. We were all like, okay, Kathleen, you've been around the block. You've done things for Steven Spielberg. We trust you. George trusts you, obviously. So I was on board. Man.
And what did you think of The Force Awakens?
Initially, I thought it was okay. I was like, all right, I can get down with this. There's some decent plot points. I thought Harrison Ford got whored out a little bit as far as I was concerned. I mean, it almost felt like, to me, originally, I was like, okay, he wanted to die in Return of the Jedi. I'm from the old school, or in Empire. So maybe he was just getting his wish fulfilled. So I kind of just accepted it as that. But it was a little disparaging. I remember thinking, God, they didn't really set it up. There was no father-son dynamic really up until that point. That we got to see, which I was a little disturbed by, but there was enough there with, Snoke was an interesting character. The Knights of Ren, had piqued my interest. Rey, initially I was like, okay, she's got a British accent. I bet she's related to Obi-Wan. We all had our thoughts on this,
right?
And where she came from, type of deal, and you could tell the way JJ had set it up, that her parentage was an important factor to this story, and they were going to save it. So at the end of Force Awakens, with the shot of Luke, and of course, hardcore Luke Skywalker fans are like, why'd you do this to us? You only gave him the one scene at the end, but at least he's in it,
Right.
And he's got that look, and he's looking at her, and, of course, we all went wild in our conspiracies, like, oh, that's his daughter that he's looking at, or or does he recognize Obi-Wan in her? Does he know that she's got the Force already? You know, all of these things came out. And I believe that's when YouTube really took off with Star Wars channels like Hello Greedo and Star Wars Explained, all these things. Because there were enough loopholes left in The Force Awakens where the story could have went quite a few different ways, which kept a lot of people intrigued. Unless you were people like world-class bullshitters where they could already kind of see something wasn't right here.
Indeed.
But there was few and far in between because the nostalgia was still there. Our characters were still alive. Carrie Fisher hadn't dropped dead yet. You know, so there was a lot of hope, so to speak, for the next one, you know, going forward. Like, okay, that was okay. Maybe this next one will blow that one out of the park. You know, it's kind of the mindset of most hardcore Star Wars fans, I believe.
Was your son old enough at the time to enjoy the movie with you?
Yeah, he went to, he saw it. He was 5, I think, at the time, 5 or 6. He didn't like the Han Solo part. That scared him. I remember he was not happy about that. He didn't feel like Han Solo needed to die. So him and like Jesse Milestone really would have embraced at that moment. He was a Han Solo fan too. I think we all were, obviously, but so that got him. I remember enough to where he didn't really want to watch it again for a while. You know, it disturbed him enough. And he was such a hardcore lover of the old school movies already that he just kind of resorted back to those still. You know, he was still watching those in the meantime. And he was anticipating The Last Jedi, but he had already had some speculation. And he was, and I'll tell you what, as time went on, he got more and more nervous about Luke Skywalker.
Really? What's your son's connection with Luke Skywalker? I'm taking he's a fan of the original trilogy.
Yeah, no, he's well, he got raised around Star Wars. His mom's a Star Wars fan. I'm a Star Wars fan. I already had a lightsaber before he was even born. I went and bought my own Darth Vader FX lightsaber a couple of years prior.
Nice.
So he was raised around it. He got to watch Empire Strikes Back at, I want to say 3, 2.5. I remember having a moment where he was still not talking very well yet, but he turned to me during the movie and said, you know, I believe the words were, Darth Vader is Luke's dada, because he was calling me dada at that time. You know, I said, yeah, he had his own little moment, you know, and I was like, yeah, there it is, you know, and there's that big twist, you know, and he was hooked. He had a Darth Vader cake that year. And he went on he was actually more fond of Darth Vader at first, but then it slowly grew into Luke Skywalker, the hero's journey, of course, and the character he could relate to. And I was seeing myself all over again, literally. Like I was reliving him through me because I was that same age when I got to see all that stuff. Because I was born in '78, so the first movie that I saw like on VHS was Empire and Star Wars, and then I was just old enough to go see Return of the Jedi in the theater.
Yeah, me too. I was born in '77. I went along that same track.
Okay, yeah.
So what did you think of Rogue One?
It was okay. Did I feel it was necessary? No. Did I feel like that should have been the first movie that they came out with on the whole, you know, single movies? Yes and no, because I was like, okay, at least they're keeping it connected to our story that we already know. But at the same time, I was like, but do we really need to know? You know? So I went in excited for it. I was like, all right, this could be interesting. But I think I was more interested in seeing the old characters again, like, you know, because that was my coup de grace, my fan base. We all wanted Darth Vader, you know. So when I went in to see it, I was really looking forward to those scenes, and they didn't disappoint, especially the last one. And I think because of the way they put Darth Vader at the end of that movie, it catapulted it to a level of where I appreciated it more, as if they wouldn't have kept that scene in. I think if that scene wasn't there, I might have not liked that movie as much. It would have been just mediocre. Possibly another like Solo, so to speak. So,
Right. Did you see The Last Jedi with your son for the first time?
Unfortunately, yes.
And what was that experience like?
Horrific. Oh boy, yeah. Ooh, this is a hard one for me, Stefan. You know that.
Sorry, man. I had to ask.
I know. Well, okay. What was he, 7 at the time? So he made me promise him before we went and seen it because he didn't actually really want to go see it at first. And I'm like, why? It's new Star Wars. We got to see it. And he finally got it out of him. Because we were literally on the day of we were going to go see it. And he's like, I don't want to see Luke die. And I'm like, oh, I don't think they're going to do that. No, we got another movie after this. They wouldn't kill Luke in the second act.
Mm.
So I put my balls out there on the chopping block and said, no, son, Luke Skywalker's going to live. He's going to be just fine. Well, we went and watched the movie. I sat there probably like, I would say 75% of other people just like me, kind of just in the state of what the hell just happened. Walked out afterwards, just crushed, knowing that, that was probably it for Luke Skywalker. I don't need to get into all the details of what was bad about the movie. Just the feeling of coming out of there, looking over at my son. My first initial reaction was what I noticed, which a lot of other people did, was I was like, his metal arm didn't drop. I was like, that. I think that's a sign. I think maybe he wasn't on that planet, and he was a force ghost of a force ghost, or hologram of a hologram type of thing.
Right.
And so I kind of went with that, and I was trying to perk my son up, saying, I think he might still be alive. I think he's still alive, because he's metal-handed, So I was already making excuses for the damn movie before it really had sank in how, detrimental this was. And after that, he doesn't play with the toys anymore. His lightsabers collect a lot of dust most of the time. I saw a complete switch in my child as far as his love of Star Wars. That was it. You took out Luke Skywalker, you took out his devotion to it. And I think that's about the time I really started diving in with the Phantom Menace and all the channels that were going around talking about it, especially World Class with their toys, videos. I really connected to, because I'm like, he's absolutely right. My kid wants none of these toys now, none of them. When a couple of years ago, he was all about them. I mean, a few Christmases ago when Force Awakens came out, almost all his presents were Star Wars. What a switch! It's like night and day.
It seems like a trend that's happened with many people that have been coming to the Phantom Menace or orbit the Phantom Menace. Is that exact feeling? I had the same experience with my son. He was, I was a big Darth Vader fan. I love the redemption part of that story, and him turning at the end of Return of the Jedi meant a lot to me. I love Luke and I love Vader for that, and so his attachment was to Kylo Ren. He was really starting to like Kylo Ren, and after The Force Awakens, forgiving what they did to Han and a couple other things, and it being a retread of Episode 4. I was all about him being loving that character, loving Kylo Ren, getting his lightsaber, wearing T-shirts, and being involved in it. And then, after The Last Jedi, I, like you and many other people, it killed a bonding experience between father and son, and I'm sure grandfather and son, and mother and daughter, and various types of people, because of how poorly they executed that film in the direction that they went. It was a shame, which led to Solo. Did you see Solo?
No, we didn't go to the theater. I have just recently watched that movie, like within the last, I want to say a month and a half.
And what did you think of it?
Average at best. I really would have loved to seen the Lord Miller cut. The original idea that was probably presented before Kathleen came through and axed them and made it her, brought in Howard or whatever. And so I feel like while I watched it, kind of forced myself because I had no freaking interest in this movie whatsoever. But me and Megs were talking about doing a review of it, so I was like, oh, I might as well watch it, so I know. And as I watched it, I realized the main character that was playing Han Solo, Alden Reich, I think his name is
Aaron Reich, yeah.
Aaron Reich. I always thought, okay, he was picked for a reason, and I'm guessing he probably had just what they were looking for in the Lord of Miller version that was originally filmed, the more comedic or whatever they were trying to go for.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I bet you he fit that. But when they came in and said, oh, no, we're doing it this way, Kathleen's way, and you got to get an acting coach, and you got to go and do it this way, I could see it in the movie. I could literally see it. Like, I could see him almost like he felt like he was like a cattle prod was in his back the whole time, going, say your line, say your line. So he felt really robotic, forced, almost mannequin style, the way he, worse than Anakin Skywalker portrayal of Attack of the Clones. I mean, it was just terrible. God, and some people say he did all right, and yeah, I guess he got a couple mannerisms right as far as trying to portray Harrison Ford, but for him to evolve into his own, character as Han Solo, it was an epic fail, and you could just see it and how it was forced in there. So yeah, wasn't a fan of it.
That's an interesting take, Snow. I don't think I've ever heard it put that way.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm also interested in seeing the Lord and Miller version of that movie.
Yeah, I think something good was going to happen, and they screwed it up.
Yeah. So, have you found any correlation between how you felt when your music fans, turned on you, and the treatment that you have received from Disney Lucasfilm employees?
Of course, it made me understand from a better perspective of knowing how people can. I don't want to say brainwashed. That's too much of a forced word in there. People can be, I don't know. I don't want to say turned either. Maybe persuaded a little bit from mainstream. A culprit for me is like CNN, ABC News, NBC, and even Fox News does it a little bit too on the hardcore right side. And it got choked off to a point where it felt like everybody's brains were getting programmed one way or another. And the freedom of free thought and accepting, whatever entertainment artist, whatever was you were enjoying at the time, not just accepting whatever traits they come with, but to explore it more and try to be more connected. And what I'm kind of getting at here is, like, for me as an artist, I had a fan base that was devoted and dedicated and pushed my one song, but they only saw me as this one character, this one-dimensional character of, here's Corey the Seahawks fan or Snowdub the Seahawks fan. They didn't see the guy who had been through, a rough childhood, a little bit of gang life, a little bit of, drug dealing days, a little bit, I've had, lost many family members and friends, best friends, to horrible circumstances. So, all these things in everybody's life develops your own character and how you're going to be. So as time has gone on, I've seen what has happened with my music thing. Kind of happened the same thing with, Star Wars and the fandom and these old school fans that are devoted to what they believe, was righteous in how they grew up. And it's the same thing with me. It was I felt righteous in having a gun on my hip in my album cover, because it was dedicated to a thing that I believed in, and patriotism, my grandfather, World War II, America. And to see it twisted like that made me understand that we are really in a crucial time. I want to say definitely in American history, but maybe even worldwide history, but definitely in American history. We're in a crucial time right now where too many people are standing on one side or the other, and we're not seeing enough interaction in the middle. And the people that are still in the middle are really getting ran over. And it's sad. I wish I could reach out to those fans, that left when they found out, I was more of a Trump supporter or whatever. I wish I could reach out to them now and be like, hey, I still want to talk. I still want to be your friend. I still want to be a 12th man. I still want to be a Seahawks fan. I still want to give you a high five. Just because I don't believe this or that doesn't mean I'm not still a great person. And there's a lot of that going around right now. And I even see it in the Phantom Menace, a little bit now, where certain characteristics of a person, whether it's just one line of it, one certain characteristic of it, people are exploiting it and being like, rawr, 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 my buddy Black Angus is taking a lot of heat last couple of days over something very just minute and stupid. And it's like, but yeah, that part of him kind of sucks. That part of him's kind of stupid. I don't agree with that part of him. But look at all this other stuff he does where he's helped so many of these small channels like myself grow up, get an audience. He did a lot of work for Ollie. He's always been a big voice and trying to make change, make differences, and help people. And to see a bunch of people just attack him all of a sudden for one little thing, it felt like me all over again, man. And we can't do that. You got to understand. Yeah, I don't like that certain perspective of that person's ideology. Whatever you don't disagree with, but don't forget there's a lot of other parts of that personality too that you should try to at least, if not understand, at least try to stand off a little bit more instead of just attacking right away. Take a minute and look at it from the outside and embrace it a little bit before you immediately attack that one thing. Nobody likes a bandwagon effect, and I've seen it too many times.
Well said, Snowdo. Well said. Which brings to the next question. Are you Phantom Menace? Do you consider yourself Phantom Menace? Yes or no, and why?
Well, that's a great question, Stefan. I believe when I first started my YouTube channel that I felt like I kind of put the badge on, so to speak. Like, okay, here's my Phantom Menace badge, and I'm saying I'm part of this, this group. And for a long time there, I really believed that, and I believed in embracing this, this mentality of a group of people that were all on the same spectrum, especially with Star Wars and political agendas being shoved into our entertainment. As time has gone on, I realized that the Phantom Menace is merely just an idea. And do I still believe in the idea? Yes, I do believe in the idea. But do I think we should affiliate it as like I don't think we should all have headbands that say Phantom Menace. I don't think we should all have T-shirts that say Phantom Menace. I don't think there should be a gang mentality to it, because it can almost collaborate a group think of people that will automatically bandwagon and attack and jump on something that they don't like before they know the whole story. That said, I have a lot of love for the Phantom Menace. I have a lot of friends that say, "Hey, I'm Phantom Menace," and I still associate with them every day. Am I myself going to walk outside with a big flag saying Phantom Menace? No. Do I still people still see me as part of the Phantom Menace? Of course, and I think they should, because of who I associate with. But I think now that I've been doing this for a while and I've kind of met a lot of people involved, and I've seen how how mentalities have kind of shifted one way or the other, and how they think and whatever they want to do, I've realized that maybe being a little more independent in your thinking can help give you an outside perspective on everything. So as we get closer to episode 9, we need to understand that there's going to be people that like this movie, whether we hate it or not, whether we walk into this this is garbage, there's going to be people that like it. There's going to be opinions that are going to change. There's going to be people that jump back on board. Hey, that was a good one. Let's see that. So to outright be like boycott 9, or don't do it. I can't tell people not to, especially when they have so much of their passion dedicated to it. I'm going to go see it. Now, I'm not paying Disney to see it. 2 tickets for Cat, please. Uh, but I will see it. I will review it. I'll give my honest opinion about it. But after that happens, I think the quote unquote Phantom Menace is going to have to recalibrate a little bit and relook at ourselves and understand that in order to really make progress, we do need to lean over the aisle a little bit. Throw a hand out once in a while for a handshake and be like, okay, I disagree with you about this, but maybe there's something we do kind of both agree on. Let's focus on that for a while. And together we can make the movement bigger by not staying so still in your position, and to lean a little bit one way or the other once in a while. A little bit of sacrifice of your hardcore beliefs can open some new avenues to possibly coax more people into understanding and even realizing what has happened to our entertainment. We can't reach out to other people to help them understand our ideology by attacking them. That's for sure, because then you're just putting a label on yourself. So negativity can only go so far, and I gotta remember that positivity is always going to be better embraced by people than negativity will. It always will. Great example of that is Drunk 3PO. The guy has skyrocketed in popularity because he's just a nice guy. Everybody likes him, and he stays a real kind of in his own lane type of persona, and I respect him for that. But at some point in time, something happened and a bunch of people attacked him over something silly, and the poor guy hasn't been on Twitter for a while, and it was just like, no, that's not what we need. We wanted Drunk 3PO to be that shining light, that guy that can maybe break new barriers and take us to the next level, so to speak. So there it was again, and I'm seeing that too much, and we've got to figure out a way, and I don't have all the answers, Stefan, I'm just trying to think outside the box a little bit, but we got to find a way to help connect us more and not pull us into these, groups and sides and points of perspective. Because the more that happens, the more we'll shatter off into little pieces, and it just won't be a movement anymore. It won't be a collective.
Well said, Stowe. I don't think I could have said any of that any better. Yeah, we definitely can't remain static. We've got to stay objective to a point, and we have to applaud things when they're done correctly. When people are respected, when the art is respected and done well, we have to be able to allow ourselves to say that in our honest opinions if we enjoyed it or not. We can't stay in a static hate. I completely agree with you. So I know that one of the best shows you have right now is the Ribbit and Bigot show. I've seen it myself. I think it's very funny. You work with Kermit the Log. Tell me a little bit about that show.
Oh yeah, we've definitely quote my frog friend here. We've gone all in on this one. Girth from birth. Girth from birth. Ribbit and Bigot show is our comedy show, and it's definitely evolved from that. It started out, we were just trying to put something together with the puppets, and bring Megs in. She was kind of like a co-host quite a bit too. She still does once in a while. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was really focused. I noticed the comedy aspect of it. I had some people reach out to me during a moment in time when I felt like, maybe I want to quit this YouTube thing. And a couple buddies, friends, fans, whatever you want to call them, reached out, and they're like, no, man, one in particular I got to mention is Mexican Iron Man. This guy, he came out of nowhere saying he was almost done with the Phantom Menace. Like literally, he was getting to a point where he's seen too much negativity. He had burned out on it, and all of a sudden he came across the Ribbit and Bigot show, and he said he laughed so damn hard he had to pull off the road because he was swerving, And he's like, I had to pull over and watch the rest of the show right then and there, because I was laughing so hard. And I thought to myself, I was like, and I always giggle. You hear Kermit break character once in a while, and we crack each other up. And I think we hit a nerve. We're like, okay, there is people out there that just want to laugh, that just want to let it go, not care about it. And then with that Dave Chappelle special that came out, Sticks and Stones, that kind of lit the fire under my ass, where I was like, okay, it's okay to say whatever the hell we want now. on our show, and
Mhm.
and no holds barred anymore. You know, as long as it's fun, and we're not taking things too serious. And yeah, so far so good. Ribbon Biggest Show's been a hit for my channel. It always cracks at least 100 views, I think. People go back and watch them over and over again, I guess. People are now asking me to be on the show, and it's like, well, you got to have a little bit of comedy chops. You know, not anybody just gets to jump on there.
Right. You got a
No,
standard. You got to maintain a standard.
that's right. You got to be funny,
Yeah.
at least a little bit. But yeah, it's so we want to bring more guests on. I think Flipped Out and Jay from those two ball guys bringing their characters on from their show, the Rob Boss show, was a brilliant play. That turned out really well. That's the most recent one. If anybody wants to
Hmm.
check that out. And then just last night, Kermit had his first stream where I jumped on it with him. We didn't puppet, or I didn't puppet, but we got together again. And man, his stream last night was blowing up, and it wasn't necessarily the Ribbit and Bigot show, but it was still along the premise of bringing people on just to laugh and make
Right.
some jokes. And if they get a little cringe or a little over, it might piss a couple people off, type of thing. Who gives a uh,
Right.
put your comedy out there, have some fun with it, and people will laugh. And hopefully, the most intelligent people can even laugh at themselves and be like, I don't need to be mad all the time, or uh, negative all the time, or attacking all the time, or defending all the time. There's a time when we can all just get together and have a few hearty laughs at the puppets, at ourselves, and just at life in general. Because life's too short, man, to
Yeah.
always be on a dang warpath. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know. We've been talking in private for months. We've been friends for months now, and I think that's one thing that we really needed in the Menace community was a comedy show. Just some place to go and laugh and just have a good time and not be constantly thinking about everything that's going on wrong in entertainment. And I believe you and Kermit have something special together, and I really think you guys can take off.
Me too. It just needs to cut back on the cocaine.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. Stop slapping the pig around so much.
Besides that,
So,
we're perfect.
so what's the future for Snow Dub Music and Entertainment? What do you see? What are you trying to do to move forward?
Um, well, like I said, when episode 9 drops, things are going to change. I don't know how it's going to change, but I feel it coming. Definitely a shift. And that said, I realize that, I'm not going to be a Star Wars channel, even though I cover Star Wars topics. But I definitely want to be a comedic channel. I definitely want to be a channel that helps other smaller channels like yourself, Stefan. I don't, I'm 650 range or whatever, but I feel exactly like a guy with 100 subs as much as I feel like the guy that just hit 1,000 subs. We're only a couple hundred away from each other. Um, and so I know I'm still just a small fish in the pond trying to find my way, but I have really adapted to the comedy, the laughs, and just bringing entertainment. I got some ideas cooking. El Perro de Rovera was a pretty big hit.
Yes.
Um, so he's still in the background. I also got another character I'm coming up with. His name's Snow Walter Chronic Kite. I want to do like a kind of a parody news show, biting off Kermit's PMS show a little bit there, and he plans to be involved with that too. And getting together with like-minded individuals like the Flipped Outs and the two ball guys that are trying to bring something different, something fresh,
Hmm.
and a little crazy and a little zany, because that's how I am. And also, I want to make more music eventually in the future too. I love making little rap skits like we did with the Twitter, or like the little funny Phantom Menace videos I did for Geeks and Gamers and all the other channels and stuff back in the day. I still love doing that kind of stuff. I think my next big project will probably end up being another Seahawks song eventually. If not this season, next season. I have one more in the tank that's been paid for, ready to go. Just been waiting for a hot season. So
Hmm.
maybe, we'll see how this next few weeks go. Maybe I'll, put that pedal to the metal and try to hopefully coax some fans back Fortunately, we got another election cycle going here in next year, so that will make things interesting as well. So yeah, buckle up, I guess, is the best thing I can say. And you never know what's going to happen over here at Snow Dove Music and Entertainment. We keep it interesting.
Beautiful. I look forward to seeing you progress and watching your channel. And I love your content, Snow, and your personality. And Jolly, the conservative puppet, is probably one of the funniest damn things I've ever seen. The whole concept of that character. How did you come up with that?
Well, Jolly himself is actually a puppet from Disneyland. He was purchased at the Pirates of the Caribbean back in 1988. So, or 89. So it would be 30 years. Yeah, 30 years this year. Mm-hmm. And he was a pirate at first. So I've had that puppet forever. I played with him a bunch when I was younger. I used to actually do shows for my local church. That's a whole other story, but I was always into puppeteering. I loved Jim Henson, loved the Muppets growing up. So I always had a kind of a knack for it, but it was always just a comedy thing. I'd pull them out once in a while for friends, even as a teenager. You know, remember one time we drove around the block where I ducked down in the street or in the seat and put Jolly up so it looked like he was riding passenger with my buddy. And the looks we got going through town, you know, and I'm waving at everybody with this puppet.
That's great.
Just to laugh, you know. And so I remember when me and Megs started talking about doing a show, we were like, well, we want to review movies and stuff. And I was like, yeah, but you know, the thing going around right now is, you know, everybody's kind of sick of these 40-year-old white men, and not to quote old Brie Larson, but I was like, man, I really don't want to be that guy, you know. I don't want that label. How do we avoid this? And because I know I got a great premise of movies and I know my stuff, but I was like, hey, let's try the puppet. You know, I was like, let's bust out Jolly. He's a little dusty, so I think I glued a new nose on him. You know, fixed him up, put some sunglasses on him, whatever. Mm-hmm. And we did our first video, the Last Jedi review, because you know it's so detrimental. That's kind of what got us thinking about it, making this channel. And we put Megs and Jolly together, and Megs being my younger sister, being around my crazy antics, her whole life. Mm-hmm. Of course, she adapted to it very well. And the video went over really well. You can ask Rookie Critic and Mary Mayhem. They've both said to me on a couple occasions that it's just one of the funniest Last Jedi reviews they've ever seen. And that was the first video. That was the first one. Yeah, that's where it all started.
Wonderful. Is there anyone you would like to? Is anyone special you would like to thank in the community, or any people that you'd like to thank for helping you get to where you're at?
Oh, geez, man, I don't have a list that long. Oh, let's see. Everybody who's ever given me a boost, everybody who's ever had me on their channel, everybody who's ever gave me a shout out on Twitter, everybody who's ever slapped the like button, everybody who's ever tuned in, even people that I don't disagree with right now or haven't really been staying in contact with, still got love for them and still appreciate everything they've done for me. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't. I mean, I got to go off the ones that have really been by my side through thick and thin. I mean, right down into the dirty trenches. You know, Kermit the Log, obviously, Megs, my sister, you, Stefan, Lethal Lightning, Red Gaze, the Gaze community, Black Angus, Drunk 3PO. Am I forgetting anybody? Rookie Critic, Mary Mayhem helped me out a whole bunch in the very beginning. Trying to think. Of course, Jeremy Geeks and Gamers, World Class Bullshitter. Ethan, not so much. I've never really interacted with him. I'd love to someday, but not so much. And you know, there's others too, like Flipped Out. Sith. Jeez. You know, so it's getting hard now. Like, and then I got people that are just dedicated, awesome people that tune in, like Mexican Iron Man, Shellback, Will Gentry, the Senate. Daddy Pants, Micah. I just go on and on, Stefan. I literally should have wrote a list. You know, I'd like to thank, turn on the music, right. Take me off the stage, Academy Awards.
Well, that's the thing about this fan collective, this group, this movement, whatever you decide to call it, because it's really, like you said, it's more of an idea, is that we all help one another. You know, we all, as much as we can, and we help to promote one another. And that's one of the beautiful things about this collective, in my opinion. And there's so many names that you can't remember them all at once.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
And I guess the main thing I'd like to say, it's I kind of feel like we're getting probably to the end here, but the main thing I like to say is just reach out to people that you normally wouldn't reach out to and talk to them. See what they have to say. You might be interested. You might find out that you have a conversation there that you never knew you had. It's not always about attacking people. And there's a few people I would like to hopefully reach out to me, and talk about stuff, but I'm not going to force it. That's a whole other bag of worms, but definitely try to, if you can, to think outside the bubble a little bit and understand that we got another Star Wars movie coming down the pike. And as much as everybody wants to stay on that, path of, you got to understand that J.J. Abrams is not going to make as bad of a Star Wars movie as Rian Johnson did. I just don't think it's possible.
No, that's a positive outlook.
So there's going to be people that like the movie. Deal with it.
Right.
Understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Shutting down opinions is not what we do. Invalidating someone's opinions is not something we've been fighting against. So if people like this film, then by all means have that opinion and speak it.
That's right.
Oh, excuse me. Yep. So we're toward the end here. I know Snow has to get back to work. Thank you so much for stopping your work to be on this interview. I appreciate that, buddy.
Oh, no problem, man. Yeah, no, I've been swamped with work. That's why I apologize to anybody in the chat that's been wondering, why we haven't done a Jolly and Meg show, or, I haven't done very many Jolly rants or anything like that. I just haven't had the time, and I'm sorry, but I plan to get back on it. I'm not going anywhere, and I stay dedicated to my Ribbit and Bigot show. Got my Seahawks show that I'm trying to do every week, and try to jump on some streams here and there, like this one with you, man. So, as soon as you reached out to me, I said, yeah, no problem, brother.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it.
Just schedule me in. Let me know ahead of time, and I'll make it work.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate it, Snow. I want to thank you for being there from the very beginning when I started coming out and promoting the Fandom Menace project. You were one of the people that came out to help me and helped lifted me up and got me some recognition in the community, and I can't thank you enough for it.
Oh man, I'm so proud of you, man. You and what you've done as far as leaps and bounds, as and getting your project up and moving. That's all you. Everybody else just kind of helped push you down the road, so to speak, got behind you and shoved the car, but you're driving, and you're knocking it out, buddy. And look at this. I mean, you already got kind of your own little show and niche going on, and got some books coming, and things are looking up. I've watched people like you and another great one is Red Gaze, really making leaps and bounds and strides, and I'm loving it. It's all these little channels deserve a good look. The ones that you've been hearing about that you haven't gone to check out yet, maybe go give them a look, because these people that you keep hearing about here and there, they're making moves and they're creating content and bringing us good stuff, whether it's music, entertainment, or like you, even books, reading materials. So definitely show much love to everybody that you see getting mentioned where you're tagged to stuff. Don't just shine them on, give them at least check them out. Yeah. And if they're boring, they're boring, hey, move on. But if they captivate you in any way, show them some love, because they're really trying.
Absolutely. Support independent creators. Please, if you like what you heard tonight and you are not already subscribed, head over to Snowdub Music and Entertainment. He is a very funny YouTuber. I'm sure he's going to keep us laughing for many years to come. Check out his channel. Check out the Ribbit and Bigot show. It's always hilarious. And thank you very much for joining us. And everyone have a great night.
#Tuck and Roll. #GenderCheck.
GenderCheck.